The mountain roared. Gunfire cracked from both slopes. Dirt spat up around Lena's face. Her ears rang. The taste of copper sat on her tongue. She slid behind a broken wall, boots sucking in cold mud. A tracer snapped past her cheek and died in the snow. "On me," Amir shouted over the radio. "Left ridge, PKM." Lena risked a glance. The enemy machine gun hammered from a rock shelf above the treeline. Bright arcs cut through the drifting fog. Their squad leader was down in the road, one leg twisted. The convoy's lead truck burned, tires shrieking as the rubber melted. Someone in the back screamed for a medic, then went quiet. Lena dragged her rifle in close. The barrel shroud was scuffed red. Men at the base had laughed when they saw it. Paint on a precision rifle. They said it looked like a toy. They said it would shine like a flare. She had kept it red anyway. A stubborn choice she never explained. "Lena, I need that gun quiet," Amir said. His breath came in short bursts. He crouched behind a low berm, radio pressed to his ear. Rounds chewed the dirt over his head. "We move when you cut it." She checked wind with a wet finger. Snow drifted left to right. The air smelled like diesel and burned cordite. She exhaled slow. The PKM flashed again. She found the gunner's shape, just a shoulder and helmet behind rock. She didn't have the angle from here. "Cover me," she called. She gathered herself and sprinted. Mud grabbed her ankles. Chips of stone whipped past as bullets hit the wall behind. She slid into a narrow trench that ran toward the slope. Her knee slammed a buried root. Pain flared. She kept moving, teeth clenched, breath counting steps. At the trench bend she planted elbows and leveled the red rifle. Her scope fogged at the edges. She wiped it with her sleeve. The PKM team reloaded. A second man held the belt with bare hands, mouth open, steam rising. Lena centered the reticle on the gun's feed tray. She squeezed. Metal sparked. The belt jumped loose. The gunner cursed and reached down. She shifted to his cheekbone. One shot. He dropped. "PKM down," Amir said. "Go, go." Their squad scrambled across the road, dragging the wounded leader. Mortars thumped from farther up the valley. The first round hit short, a dull punch that lifted a sheet of snow. The second round fell long, smashing into the second truck and flipping it onto its side. Fuel spilled into the drainage. The cold wind carried a sweet chemical stink. "Mortar tube, east crest," someone called. "Can't see it." Lena crawled to the end of the trench and peered through the broken slats of a fence. The valley opened into a wide bowl, black pine on the rim, white drift below. On the eastern lip, flashes winked, then vanished. Dismounted fighters moved like shadows against the rock. A white drone buzzed across the cloud, tiny and distant. She slid a fresh magazine into the well. Her fingers shook. The tremor came back when the noise surged. She breathed in and out, counting 3 beats each. The tremor eased. Her hands steadied. Amir dropped beside her, mud to his chest. He pressed the radio to her ear. "Listen." A voice came through the static. Cold, flat, confident. "Drive them into the village. Then fire on the mosque and clinic. Break the spirit. No survivors." Amir swallowed. "My sister is in that clinic," he said. His eyes stayed on the snow. "I sent her there this morning for medicine." Lena felt the world tighten. Duty and something heavier pulled at her chest. "We stopped them," she said. Another mortar fell. The shock slapped the trench, showering both of them with dirt. The wounded leader groaned. The medic yelled that he needed blood. The sky carried a low thunder of rotors, then faded. Amir shook his head. Bird just waved off, he said. Too hot. We are alone. Figures appeared on the eastern crest, moving with practiced rhythm. Rifles low. Radios clipped to chest rigs. One stood taller, coat flaring in the wind. He walked with hands behind his back, calm in the chaos. The drone drifted over him like a quiet hawk. Amir hissed. That is Baran. The one who burned schools. Lena adjusted her focus. The tall man stopped beside a folded map laid on a crate. He pointed to the valley floor and spoke into a handset. Seconds later, the mortar crew fired again. The round arced toward the village road below them. The shell landed near a line of families trying to flee the smoke. The blast rippled through the snow. A child's hat spun up and vanished in the fog. Lena closed her eyes for one heartbeat. When she opened them, she measured the distance in her mind. The crest lay beyond anything they had trained for here. The wind curled in the valley like a river. The air was thin and cruel. Command says hold, Amir said, voice strained. Reinforcements are hours away. No one would survive hours. Lena looked at her rifle. Red in the cold light. She dialed elevation until the turret threatened to lift from its seat. The numbers meant little this far. You needed math, patience, a miracle. She mapped the wind with the flicker of smoke. She watched the drone drift and counted.
Seconds between mortar flash and impact. She felt old training coil in her muscles, a path she had walked in silence, when the range sergeants mocked the paint on her gun. Amir saw what she was doing. That is insane, he said. It is too far. It is the only shot we have. You will miss, and they will see us. They see us already. He stared at the eastern crest. His sister's name sat on the back of his teeth. He did not say it. He nodded once. Behind them, the medic shouted again. Their leader gasped for air. A new ripple of engine noise rose from the far forest. More fighters. More trucks. Lena angled the bipod against a frozen root and settled into the mud. She found Baran's face in the haze. Calm eyes. A mouth like a line. She could almost hear him speaking, instructing his men to flatten a village, because fear worked faster than bullets. The wind shifted. The smoke flag on the valley floor swung right. She added another turn. Her heart thudded slow and heavy. She breathed out and held. The world narrowed to a red rifle, a distant man, and the thin space between. A shadow stepped in front of Baran and lifted binoculars. The drone dipped lower. The mortar crew raised another round. Lena's finger found the pressure wall on the trigger. Snow hissed against the stock. Then from the left ridge, a second muzzle flash bloomed. A sniper. The round sliced past Lena's ear and punched the dirt by Amir's hand. She blinked. Her scope danced. The valley tilted. Sniper on us, Amir shouted. Lena held the brake on the trigger. 2 targets now. One distant. One hunting them. She had to choose. Lena froze in the trench. The shot still rang in her head. Snow trickled from a wall and landed on her cheek. The counter-sniper had her bracketed. If she lifted her scope again, he would punch a hole through her face. Move, Amir whispered. He has the angle. Another round cracked. The top of her bipod sparked. She dragged the red rifle close and rolled deeper into the trench. Amir grabbed the radio and hissed for smoke. No answer. The net filled with confused voices. Someone cried out that they were out of white. Another voice said the mortar crew had walked the fire to the village square. Lena kept low and drew in the mud with her finger. She marked the ridges and the bowl. The flash came from the left wall, maybe a crag above the pine line. The sniper was smart. He had fired just after the mortar, using the boom to hide his own signature. She pictured his breathing, patient, calm. Give me your mirror, she said. Amir dug a cracked signal mirror from his chest pocket. Lena broke it into 2 pieces with a rock. She wrapped one shard in a bandage. She taped it to her bayonet and raised it on the far edge of the trench. The bayonet quivered, just a sliver of light. A shot hit the mirror and snapped it clean. She saw the spark on the ridge. Not a crag. A narrow chimney of rock with a shelf. He was high. He was left of the dead pine with a broken crown. She slid to the other side of the trench and waited. She set the second shard on a shovel head and tilted it slowly. Nothing. She adjusted half a thumb. The next shot took the shovel and rang like a bell. The spark showed again. Same shelf. Same spot. I have him, she said. Can you take it? Amir asked. Not from here. She needed height for the angle and a lane through the branches. She scanned the trench. A ladder of old roots cut into the far wall. Above it, a half-collapsed goat shed leaned on a stone pillar. The roof had holes. The holes might give her a pocket to see out. Another mortar fell. Closer. The air shoved her chest. She fought the urge to shrink into the mud. Fear was a tight hand. She forced her shoulders to loosen. She looked at Amir. His face was gray with worry and smoke. He stared down valley where the village roofs lay under a drifting fog. My sister's name is Daria, he said. He said it like a promise, not like a plea. Lena nodded. I will not let them reach the clinic. She waited for the next mortar flash on the crest. When it came, she mouthed the count. 1, 2, 3. She dragged herself up the roots between beats. Splinters tore her gloves. She pushed the rifle ahead. She slid into the goat shed and froze. The shed smelled like old hay and oil. Sunlight poked through holes in the tin. Wind moaned in the gaps. She crawled to a broken plank and lifted the scope. The shelf with the sniper lay in a crease of rock and shadow. She saw a scarf edge, a cheek with frost in the stubble, a black glove on a long stock. He breathed like a stone. She set her elevation, short this time, 2 ridges over. She ran the wind in her head, a hard cross drift. She waited for his blink. The blink was a human thing she trusted. It was the softest line in a hard world. When it came, she pressed. The shot took him through the eye and tipped him off the shelf. Sniper down, she said. Amir let out a breath that fogged the cold air. You are insane, he said. Thank you. The mortar team did not pause. They fired again. An engine roared from the tree line below the crest. A technical with a mounted gun broke through the pines and began to slide down the switchback. Fighters jogged beside it and waved their arms. The tall man, Baran, watched from the rim. He did not flinch. He spoke into the handset and turned toward the valley. Command has nothing for us, Amir said. They say hold. They say avoid civilian exposure. They do not see what we see. Lena did not answer. Words would not move the trucks. Only action would. She checked the long turret again. The numbers had climbed beyond reason. She touched the red paint with muddy fingers. The color had been a dare to herself when she was nobody on a dull range. Paint it red. Own the choice. Do the math until the world stops laughing. Daria, she said. She said the name to steady her hand. She measured the distance in parts. Valley floor. First ridge. Second ridge. Crest. She watched smoke from the burn truck. It leaned at a new angle. The wind had curled right. She dialed. Amir stared at her. He shook his head. Impossible. It is a try, she said. The drone shifted. It slid toward their trench like a curious bird. Its camera, I turned. The sound burrowed into Lena's skull. Baran lifted his chin as if he could see them. Maybe he could. Maybe the drone had found heat. Time to relocate, Amir said. If we move, they roll past the school and the clinic. That is the end. Amir looked at the village. The first houses were black with smoke. A dog ran alone in the snow. It barked at a burning window. The sound felt like a blade. Make your shot, he said. She built the position with care. She wedged her rear bag under the stock. She pressed the butt to the firm pad of her shoulder. She cleared her sight with one breath on the lens. She held the tall shape in the crosshair. She added 2 more clicks. She shifted a hair left for the curl. The drone dropped lower. Its shadow skimmed the tin roof. Its prop wash sent a ripple through the snow on the plank. She felt the vibration in her teeth. She pressed the trigger to the wall and held. The world became a single line. A roar rose behind them on the road. Not their trucks. Another column. Another banner. Men in mismatched gear. A blue ribbon painted on their helmets. They were not allies. They were a second militia from a rival valley. They drove straight toward the village. Lena's eye twitched. Her finger tightened. She fired. The drone screamed and dove for the shed. It hit the roof and burst into sparks. The plank above her head split. The sight slammed into her brow. Blood ran into her eye. The shot had left the barrel. She did not know where it would land. The rifle's recoil still pressed against Lena's shoulder. Her ears roared from the drone's explosion above the shed. Splinters rained over her helmet. Blood from the scope cut dripped into her eye, stinging. She forced it open, blinking red into the scope. The valley swam. She dragged the reticle across the haze, fighting the blur. Then she saw it. The crest. Buran. Still standing. His coat flapped in the icy wind. His men gathered around him. The mortar crew loaded again. The shot she had taken, the impossible one, had gone wide. Her heart clenched. "Missed," she whispered. Amir shouted below, voice raw. "They're hitting the clinic now." She looked down valley. Smoke curled black from the mosque roof. Screams rose faint through the wind. The convoy of fighters poured toward the village like ants on a line. Behind them, the rival militia with blue ribbons thundered closer, weapons raised. Two storms converging on a town with no defense. She bit down rage and forced her breathing flat. "One more try," she muttered. But before she could settle the red rifle again, the sky cracked with a new sound. Not mortars. Not rifles. Jets. Two of them. Gray silhouettes streaked low across the ridge, engines shaking the air. Their roar swallowed the valley. The fighters scattered for cover. Trucks screeched to a halt. Buran looked up, calm as ever. The jets banked, released flares, then screamed into cloud cover. They did not strike. They were only passing. "Just a warning run," Amir said. His voice broke. "They will not stop." Lena slammed her fist into the mud. Rage boiled in her chest. All the power in the sky, and no help for the ground. Then, out of the haze, a child stumbled into the open road. Alone. No older than 7. He wore a yellow coat. His legs wobbled, arms raised toward the burning houses. Behind him, Buran's men swung rifles down. Lena's breath stopped. The red rifle lay against her cheek. Her finger hovered. She whispered, "Stay still, little one." The reticle slid. One man leveled his barrel. Lena pressed. The round struck his chest, folding him back. She worked the bolt. Fired again. Another dropped. The squad yelled, ducked, but Buran raised his hand and ordered them forward. Her shots had revealed her. The crest fighters turned scopes toward the shed. Rounds ripped through tin. Amir shouted for her to get down. She stayed prone, teeth clenched, chambering another round. Then she saw Buran lift his radio. His eyes searched the slope. His lips moved. Calm. Controlled. She felt the weight of his gaze across 6,000 meters, like he was speaking only to her. "Lena, move." Amir's voice cracked with panic. Before she could, the ground beneath the shed erupted. A mortar shell had found them. The world turned white. Wood shattered. Air punched from her lungs. She felt herself lift, then slam into the trench wall. Her ears rang. The rifle lay half buried in mud beside her, red paint smeared dark. Her hands shook as she reached for it. Splinters stuck in her arm. Smoke clogged her chest. Amir crawled to her, blood on his forehead. He grabbed her collar and dragged. "We have to fall back. Now." She coughed, shook her head. Her eye locked on the crest. Buran still stood, untouched, issuing orders. Trucks rolled again. The rival militia closed in from the rear. The village was about to be crushed between two armies. And Lena's rifle, the only weapon that might change it, had its scope cracked down the middle. She stared at the shattered glass. The world beyond it was broken in half. Lena wiped the blood from her brow. Her vision doubled, the cracked scope showing two ghostly Barans on the ridge. She blinked hard, forcing the shapes into one. Her fingers traced the fracture line. Half the glass was useless, but the other half still showed a sliver of the crest. Amir crouched beside her, his radio hissing with static. "We cannot hold. If we stay, we die with them." The village screamed below. Roofs collapsed under fire. Women carried children through the smoke, stumbling. The rival militia poured in from the forest, firing on both civilians and Baran's men. It was chaos. A storm with no direction. Lena forced herself to speak. "If Baran falls, they scatter." Amir grabbed her wrist. His grip shook. "You think one man ends this? They have trucks, mortars, rifles." She stared at Baran. His coat flared in the mountain wind, his voice steady on the handset. He was the anchor. Kill the anchor, the chain breaks. She knew it. He knew it too, which was why he stood so boldly, daring her across the impossible distance. She pulled a rag from her pouch and wiped the cracked scope again. The reticle drifted, warped by the break, but she could still align the edge. She steadied her chest against the mud, let her weight sink until her heartbeat felt like part of the earth. Amir pressed his forehead against hers, quick and desperate. "If you fail, we burn with them." "I won't fail." Her voice was low, steady, though inside she trembled. She settled the red rifle into her shoulder. The stock was warm from fire. She measured the smoke's curl again. The wind had shifted. Harder now, curling left to right. She turned the turret. 1, 2, 3 clicks past madness. Her finger found the wall of the trigger. The ground shuddered. Another mortar round fell close. Dirt slammed into her mouth. She spat, kept her eye in the scope. Her world shrank. Only Baran remained. His lips moved again, calm, certain. He was telling his men to fire on the clinic. She could see it in their gestures. She could see the arc of the mortar tube as it tilted down. She pressed. The red rifle roared. The recoil rolled through her chest like thunder. She held the sight, waiting, watching. A second passed. Then 2. The mortar crew loaded. Baran turned, still alive. Her stomach dropped. She had missed. But then a slow movement. Baran's hand slipped from the radio. His head jerked back. A dark blossom spread across his collar. He staggered 1 step, then fell. The mortar crew froze. The fighters on the crest stared in disbelief. The rival militia in the forest stopped mid-charge, confused. For a moment, the valley was silent, like the mountain itself held its breath. Then chaos cracked open. Some of Baran's men dropped their rifles and ran. Others screamed and fired wildly into the trees. The rival militia turned their guns on the retreating fighters instead of the villagers. The chain had snapped. Amir gripped Lena's shoulder, eyes wide. "You did it." She tried to breathe. The world swam. Her hands shook so badly she almost dropped the rifle. Her ears rang for more than explosions now. They rang with the weight of what she had done. Then, from the crest, a flare streaked into the sky. Green. A signal. Amir's smile vanished. His voice cracked. "Back up." He called back up before he fell. Engines growled in the distance. Heavy ones. More trucks. More guns. Lena stared at the broken scope, still locked on the ridge. She had ended one monster, but another wave was already coming. The growl of engines rolled through the valley like thunder. Lena pressed her palm to the mud, steadying herself. The shot that had dropped Baran echoed in her bones, but the silence it created was already cracking. From the far ridge, headlights pierced the snow haze. A column of trucks descended, bigger, heavier, with mounted cannons. Reinforcements. Baran's final order had summoned them before he fell. Amir's face drained of color. "We can't stop that." Lena checked her rifle. The barrel smoked faintly. The cracked scope showed only half a world. Her hands trembled. Her last miracle had drained her, and there was no second miracle left. The village below groaned under fire. But now, With Baran dead, some of his fighters fled, others argued. The rival militia pressed in. The tide had shifted, but the wave coming down the ridge would drown everything. She felt despair closing in like cold fingers. The red rifle had bought the minutes, nothing more. Then a voice cracked through the radio, sharp and metallic. "This is Raven Actual. We have your mark. Hold position. Clear the crest." Lena and Amir locked eyes. She barely managed to whisper, "Air support." A roar answered. Not from the trucks this time, but from above. Dark shapes dropped from clouds, 2 attack aircraft banking hard, wings glinting in the last light. They had been watching, waiting for the shot, waiting for the signal that the target was down. The first jet screamed low across the ridge. Its cannon thundered, shredding the lead truck. Fire erupted. Fighters scattered like sparks. The second jet loosed rockets, and the slope became an inferno of black smoke and orange flame. Lena lay in the mud, breath gone, eyes wide as the mountain shook. Amir laughed, the sound raw, broken, half-sob. "You did it. Your shot called them in." She blinked, not understanding. Then it struck her. The drone she had destroyed earlier. It wasn't only Baran's eye. It had been theirs too. The command above had been watching through it, weighing the cost. They had waited for proof, for one impossible shot, before committing fire. Her cracked scope still framed Baran's body, sprawled on the crest. Proof. The valley was chaos now, but it was no longer one-sided. Baran's men broke in all directions. The rival militia scattered too, unwilling to face the wrath from the sky. Villagers ran, some dragging the wounded, some carrying children. The clinic still stood, smoke-stained but intact. Amir pressed his forehead to hers again, trembling. "Daria will live." Lena let out a breath that shook. She looked down at the red paint on her rifle, streaked now with mud and blood. Once mocked, once dismissed. Tonight it had spoken louder than any general's order. The jets climbed, banking into cloud, leaving only fire and silence behind. For a long time, Lena did not move. She lay in the cold, listening to her heart slow. Then she rose, lifted the battered rifle, and slung it over her shoulder. The village still burned. There would be wounded to tend, graves to dig, children to comfort. War did not end with one shot. But somewhere in the smoke, she knew, the story of a red rifle and an impossible distance would live on. And as she looked up at the crest, she whispered into the frozen air, "This isn't over." The mountain held her words in silence.